Hi everyone, this is the introduction video for Introduction to Sociology. The voice you're hearing is my voice. I am Kyle Green. You can call me Professor Green, you can call me Dr. Green, even though I'm not a huge fan of that, or you can call me Kyle, whatever works for you. But I'll be the one leading you through this course this semester. So in this video, the plan is basically just to go over the syllabus, make sure that we're all on the same page, that you understand what you're required to do, what you're required to read, how you even read the syllabus, and then I'll also provide an introduction of who I am, so you have a sense of who's standing in front of you. And I do want to say as a side note, you should be willing to ask that in every class that you take. You have a professor in front of you. You have an instructor in front of you. You should know who they are. You should know what their expertise is. You should know what their background is. So if you ever want to know more about me, feel free to ask. If you ever want to know anything about anyone else, you should ask them. And if they don't want to answer, then that's a problem. All right, so I don't know why you're taking this course. I think a lot of you signed up for this course because someone else signed you up. Maybe it was to satisfy a requirement. But I think there's a number of reasons that you should also be excited to be in an Introduction to Sociology class. First thing is, you're learning about a new discipline. The majority of you have not taken sociology before. It's not offered in every high school. It's not always something you take in a community college. So this could be a chance to learn about a new discipline and a new way of seeing the world. Second thing, this course improves your ability for critical thinking. Now, critical thinking is this vague term that gets tossed around in college. Sociology is a chance to look at data, to analyze data, to deconstruct what data you should trust or not trust, and then to build bigger arguments. It is an incredibly adaptable skill. And at some point, I'll put together a slideshow thinking about what careers you could potentially have if you wanted to major or minor in sociology. But the beauty of sociology is you can apply it to a lot of different things, right? So it's the major that gives you a choice as you continue on. And that is because you're learning this thing called critical thinking. Next thing, you're going to think about a lot of topics you've never thought of before. So we're going to use all different types of examples. We're going to look at parenting strategies in Belgium. We're going to talk about pigeon raising. We're going to talk about spatial segregation. So lots of different things that you had not thought of before. Other thing is you're going to think about topics you have thought of before, but in a new way. Sociology is particularly important right now. We're struggling as a society. There's increased polarization. There's tension between groups. There's rapid change occurring. There's people pushing back against that change. We're going to talk about difficult issues in this class, and sometimes we're going to show you new ways of thinking about it, right? We're going to talk about racism. We're going to talk about inequality. We're going to talk about gender. We're going to be talking about dating. We're going to be talking about reading the news, right? So all these different things, but from a sociological perspective. Other thing I'll say is, it's better than some of the alternatives. Even if this isn't the best course you've ever taken and you decide by the end, it wasn't my favorite course, I guarantee there's worse courses. Just, it's a low bar, but I do think that we clear that. In this course, we're going to talk about a lot of good readings. So we do use a textbook as a basis, and that's really just to provide you structure. But the majority of readings are things that I've chosen that I hope you will enjoy and find interesting and exciting. We'll also watch some good videos, some documentaries. The course is relatively cheap. I try to make sure that the things that you're required to purchase are not expensive. So you have 2 books for this class. One is completely digital, should be around $15 to $20. And then you also have another book, Give Methods a Chance, should be only like $12. So both of them should be pretty cheap. The other thing I can promise you is, again, this is not an ordinary semester. We might have to adapt. I understand that this isn't always easy as a student being potentially sent home partway through the semester, or maybe adapting to have these weird format classes. I will treat you like a adult who is also figuring this stuff out, and we'll work together to make sure that the system works, whatever we come up with. So I can promise that. All right. I do recommend you read the syllabus on your own. The first quiz will have questions about the syllabus, really basic questions. It won't be trick questions. I'll never have a trick question on the quiz. I only want you to learn the things that are important. And when you're doing the reading, that should be obvious. So if we have a question on the about the syllabus on a quiz, it's going to be like, what type of assignments do you have, right? I'm not going to quiz you on what what is the first word of page 3. That doesn't matter. But what type of assignments do you have for the course? That type of thing. So you should look over take a look at the syllabus. Now, the syllabus is available on Blackboard, so you can download it anytime. I'm not going to go over everything. Read this. It gives you a sense of what I'm going for with the course. You'll see what the course objectives or goals are right here. Not going to spend any time on that. You're able to read that yourself, and I do recommend doing that. So first time you actually have that discussion section, that time that you're in class, that will be a great chance to ask any questions you have about the syllabus. You can also email me anytime. The other thing I'll point out is for every class that I teach, I take time to choose pictures or images that I think introduce and reflect the key themes from the course. So take a look at these pictures. Think about what sociological concepts they might raise. What's interesting about these pictures? And then bring that to the first class. You don't need to write it down, but have it in your mind. People who give very good answers, small amount extra credit. Not a lot, but some extra credit. All right, things that are important. Contact information. You can email me anytime. I will respond. My goal is always within a day, usually within 2 days. Longer than that, that's a mistake, and you should email me again. I will hold office hours every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to noon. It simply doesn't work well to hold office hours in my office this semester. There isn't space to follow the health protocols. So instead, I am going to be holding office hours via Cisco WebEx. Really easy program to use, similar to Zoom, similar to Microsoft Teams. I find that it works the best, especially because you can use it for your phone or your computer. Zoom is pretty comparable, but if you go to the link that you see on the syllabus right here, that will take you to my office hours, Wednesday from 9 to noon. Required books. As I mentioned before, I try to keep this course relatively affordable. So you've got 2 books. The Society Pages Give Methods a Chance. That is a book I co-authored with a friend, Sarah Laugesen from grad school. Relatively cheap. So lots of examples of how people actually do research, and it will introduce you to different ideas in sociology. Second book is a textbook. Textbooks are never perfect, but it's a great way to provide structure for the course. So to access this textbook, which is very affordable, I think $15, $20, you need to get a key from the bookstore or from the website itself, which might even be cheaper. And then on Blackboard, there's a link to PanOpen, and I'll show that in the other video that you see shared on the YouTube channel. There are other readings that will be made available through Blackboard in the content folder. I also will sometimes send out links to videos. The other thing is I will be recording lectures every week or 2 just to make sure, again, we're all on the same page and to introduce and go over key content. All right, course requirements. This is something you need to know. Pay attention to this part of the syllabus for every course you're taking. This will give you a sense of what you are actually being assessed on. What is your grade based on? In this course, it's based on just a few things. I'm trying to keep this course understandable and not overwhelming, but also give you flexibility and freedom. Later in the semester, I believe mid-November, there is a census assignment. For this, I will provide you a series of questions after teaching you how to make maps using census data and how to read the census website. So you're going to answer questions about the population that makes up the United States. The final assignment in the class is a sociological autobiography. In this assignment, your goal is to take something that happened to you, something that occurred, could be a big thing, could be a small thing, and then you are going to connect it to ideas in class. So basically, you are going to use yourself as data and write about your experience using sociological ideas. For all these assignments, I will give you more information later. This is just an overview. Making connections assignment. For this assignment, you are going to take 5 to 10 photos which illustrate one of the concepts from class that connect to one of the ideas. So you can see with both the autobiography and the connections assignment, a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom, but the goal is to find some way to capture visually something we've discussed in class. There will also be quizzes. Most weeks, at the end of the chapter you read from the textbook, I will have you complete a quiz, and I will also add some questions from the other required readings. So after you complete all the readings and videos and lectures from the class, you will take a quiz. So basically, every 2 weeks we have a unit. At the end of it, you're taking a quiz, and that's the way to up your grade. It should be easy. I won't have any trick questions. All the quizzes will be open book. They will be open notebook. Notebook is better because you take notes and it'll be easier to find the information, but that makes up a quarter of your grade. There are also in-class exercises. As you know from watching the video on the class format, in-class exercises take place in class. So every 2 weeks, you're going to come to class, we're going to do some sort of activity, you're going to write it up, and then I'll have you submit it on Blackboard just because I'm not going to have papers being passed around the class. It doesn't work in terms of safety. And then finally, if you notice, the grade adds up to 105% rather than 100%. I do not punish you if you do not participate. I don't think that's fair. If you're someone who doesn't want to talk in class, that's up to you. If you're someone who doesn't want to show up to class, that's up to you. Now, if you miss an assignment, you can't make it up, but I'm not going to punish you just for not being there. However, if you participate, if you are engaged, that makes the class better for everyone. We've all been in classes where no one speaks. It's boring. It's awkward. There's a tension in the air. We've also all been in classes where more people speak. It's better, right? So participation could take many forms. It could be you raising your hand and say, hey, I didn't understand that. It could be me asking a question and you provide an example. It could be asking me to go back to something that we talked about 2 classes ago, right? Anything. Because if you don't know something, if something doesn't make sense to you, we're in a big class. We have 120 people. I guarantee at least 5 other people also don't understand it if you don't. So that's participation. All right, this goes over the different assignments so you can have a sense of what they actually are and how they work. You'll also see the due dates on here. Other things I want to point out. Concerns. If you're worried about the class, contact me. Straightforward. The other stuff, read through the rules in the classroom. I don't really feel like I need to go over this. Some of the stuff's pretty obvious. Obviously, don't cheat. If you do cheat, you get a 0 in the class. Simple as that. So don't cheat. I go out of the way to give you assignments that are worthwhile. Now, if you end up working with someone in the course and I don't know, that's actually fine. I don't think that's a big deal. But you need to do the work, right? You can't just copy someone else. You need to do your own work. The other thing I will point out is in terms of classroom behavior, I want there to be lots of conversation. Now, we cover topics that are necessarily controversial, right? We are at a time, as I mentioned before, where tensions are high in our society, and we're going to directly address issues related to race. We're going to directly address issues related to inequality. We're going to talk about things like sexual violence or sexual assault. These are difficult topics. So what I want you to do is be open to listen to other people, be open to share as much experience as you feel comfortable with, and then work through it from a sociological perspective. We're not a class based on opinion, right? That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually understand the world from a scientific perspective. Other things to point out, don't be late. I know the class is at 8 a.m. You only have to come every 2 weeks, so I don't have that much sympathy. So be there. I'm not a fan of waking up early, but this is an 8 a.m. class, so that's what we do. That's part of the responsibility. Late work. Now, this is important. I do not accept late work. If your assignment is late, you get a 0. However, if you have any reason for it to be late, then I will give you extra time. You just have to let me know in advance. You could email me and say, hey, work is really busy this week. Can I have a few extra days? I will say yes. You could say, hey, one of my family members is actually sick, or my friend is sick, or something happened to a pet, or anything, right? Anything that's happening could be a reason to get in your work late. You need to let me know in advance. Otherwise, I don't care. But if you tell me in advance, I always care. So it's as simple as that. Just tell me, and I'll give you extra time. All right. You should read this, but I'm going to skip forward to the part that's important. Here's how the syllabus is working. It's a little bit confusing, right? Because we have this strange class format this semester. So here's what I want you to look at. You are going to be in person every 2 weeks. When you're in person, have this stuff done before you arrive in class. Obviously, if you're the group that's meeting this Tuesday, it might not be possible. It's not necessary you do that. It's great if you do, but it's not required. After that, every time you are in class, whether it's a Tuesday, Thursday, whether it's second Tuesday, second Thursday, make sure you've done the in-person readings, or in some cases, we could skim through. There's a video, right? Make sure you watch the video before class, because whatever activity we do in person that day is going to be based on that. So make sure you come prepared. Your other responsibilities are under the virtual section. Now, some of this might look intimidating, right? This looks like a lot of reading. However, this is for 2 weeks. This is week number 5 and week number 6. So while you are not in class, you do all this stuff. Doesn't matter what time of day you do it, right? Doesn't have to be at 8 a.m. Do it anytime. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, I will make a quiz available and you will take that quiz through PanOpen. So that's the plan. Some things that are important. On the first week, I list the lectures that I will record. On the other weeks, I do not. Every week, I will record some sort of supplementary lecture just to help you along the way. I'll try to keep them relatively short. I'll try not to overwhelm you with them. They're designed to assist you. They will occur. I'm going to share a link on YouTube. I have a channel where I am going to put all those lectures. So for each week, say you're looking at week 3 and 4. So we got 2 weeks to work through this. You would need to read a reading on Blackboard. You would have to listen to a podcast where there's a link here. You would have to do another reading on Blackboard. Both of these are relatively short. You have to read a chapter from a sociology experiment. And then in addition, I will record a lecture that you will watch on YouTube that will be relatively short. Let's skip ahead just to do this again. Make sure you understand. Say we're looking at week 7 and 8. So you've got 2 weeks for your in-person. So before you come to class, whatever group you're part of, you're going to read 2 chapters from this book, Modern Romance. Really good reading, easy to read. And then the rest of that time, you're going to do a reading on Blackboard, a YouTube video I'm going to send you, a podcast, and then a reading from the Give Methods a Chance book. Over 2 weeks, that isn't very much. That's the other thing I'll say. I try to keep the reading load reasonable. I know I was a student. If I assign you a lot of work, you're either going to simply not do it because it's just too much reading, you're going to skim it, so you're not going to get anything out of it, or you'll actually start to get annoyed, right? And then you'll just start to disengage from the class. So my promise to you is I try to keep the reading load really light. Sometimes it looks like a lot. Week 5 and 6, again, looks like a lot. This is over 2 weeks, and a lot of these readings are short. So I never give you that much reading. So make sure you keep up. You have more responsibility than a normal semester. In ordinary semesters, you show up Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. You might not do all the reading one day, but you show up and you say to the person next to you, let's say this person's name is Nancy. Hey, Nancy, what did I miss? She gives you a short summary. You sit through lecture. You didn't do as well because you didn't do the reading, but you're caught up. Here you have a lot of responsibility, right? The online portion of the class, in a sense, is the lecture where you get new material. The in-person part of the class, that's where we build mastery. You can't build mastery if you don't do the work beforehand. So that's the plan. Let me know if you have any questions. You can see where certain things are due. Making Connections photo essays due October 29th. We've got the autobiography due during final exam period. And that is the plan for the semester. All right, let's get back to the... All right. All right, so a few final things I want to do before we end this video. First, this is going to be the first in-class writing that you do. It isn't due, let's see what would be fair. It's due by the end of the second week. First week is better, but this is just a chance for me to get a sense of who you are, and you're going to submit this on Blackboard. So the first thing I want you to answer is, have you ever taken a sociology course? Tell me what it is if you have taken one. Second thing, this is useful for me. What makes a good professor? And third, what makes a bad professor? I will read your answers, and I try to incorporate as much of the good as possible and minimize the bad. I always learn from your answers. I'm always curious, what do you actually want as students in the course? Again, you don't need to write long answers for this, just short answers. Just give me a little information. Next thing, tell me something about you that will not come up in class. Tell me what your favorite cheese is if you eat cheese. Tell me if you drink coffee regularly, and then tell me one good movie or show that you've seen recently or song that you've heard. Now, I will save that information and potentially use it on an activity later. If we use it on an activity in class, it'll be completely anonymous. No one will have a way to track your answers down. But give me that information. And then final, if there's something you want to know about me, include it here. I'm about to introduce myself in the next slide, but I am As I said before, I'm willing to introduce myself and answer any questions that you have. And you always have the right. You should get to know who your professors are. All right, so who am I? I initially am from a very small town in Otsego County. So I grew up near Gilbertsville, New York, town of 300 people. I was 3 miles outside of that town. Went off to undergrad at SUNY Geneseo. I was a major in philosophy and in geography. I should have remembered that. And then I took a year off after school, and I worked as a substitute teacher. I traveled a bit, and then I was hired as a math teacher for the high school where I grew up. So I worked as a math teacher for a little bit, and then I went off to Minneapolis. So this is the state of Minnesota, and I was in Minneapolis at the University of Minnesota for grad school. I got my master's in geography, in cultural geography, and then I got my PhD in sociology. While I was there, I taught at University of Minnesota. I taught at Carleton College, and then after that, I moved back, and I was at Utica College in Utica, New York, and I was a professor there for 3 years. And now I'm in Brockport in Monroe County, and this is my 3rd year as a professor in the Department of Sociology at Brockport. Obviously, I have some bias, but I will say, and I'm not saying this just for false advertising, the Department of Sociology at Brockport is a very strong department. So if you are looking to take other sociology courses, talk to me. I'll give you advice. There's a lot of courses worth taking, and it's a major and minor worth considering. We'll talk about that later in the semester. All right. Some of you are not going to see me for a while, right? You're not going to see me till the 2nd week, and you only hear my voice right now. So I've included some random photos about me, and I won't say anything about the photos. I'm just going to provide them, and then you can draw your own conclusions, make your own judgments. This is the person who is in front of you talking, right? These are some random pictures I chose that I felt like captured something about me. I actually don't even know what they capture now. Now that I'm looking at them again, but this is the person in front of you. This is the voice that you're hearing. All right. I've been involved with a number of different projects in terms of research. And again, it's worth knowing what research your professors have done. Why is it worth knowing? It shows their expertise. You want to have professors in front of you who actually know this stuff, who know the material that they're talking about. So I've published on a few different things. First project, I've published a number of articles and co-authored with a number of people around basketball in some way. So as a master's student, I wrote about race in basketball and some of the ideas about street ball that exist in society. More recently, I've been writing about the NBA and politics. So what type of political expression does the National Basketball Association provide a foundation for? And then what type of ideas are limited? Bottom left, I've published on representations of masculinity in Super Bowl commercials. So looking at how advertisers sell an idea of the crisis of masculinity to convince you to buy certain products. And then the thing that I'm most well known for is I've written a lot about mixed martial arts, in particular the growth of people who train in MMA. So something, like the UFC, where you learn to punch, you learn to kick, you learn to grapple. So for 6 years while I was in Minneapolis, I trained at local MMA gyms, and I wanted to figure out, why do people do that, right? Why do people spend their lunch, spend after work, engaging in an activity that's physically painful, and then what do they get from that experience, right? So I have a number of articles trying to explore the seduction of participating in this violent practice, and then what that tells us about larger society. I also have 2 podcasts. I have one podcast devoted to theory called Give Theory a Chance. I have another devoted to methods called Give Methods a Chance. The methods podcast I turned into a book, which is one of the required books for this class. The goal is to make what sociologists do, how we learn about the world, more accessible. So that's why I use it as a teaching tool. If you ever take theory with me, we'll listen to the Give Theory a Chance podcast. All right, so in terms of what you need to do before the first class, the main thing is work on the in-class writing, that really short in-class writing, introducing yourself. Turn that in on Blackboard. Take a look at the syllabus and pay attention to if there's anything that confuses, worries, or excites you. Excites is great, but what I really want to know is there anything that confuses or worries you, so I can clarify that. And then if you have time, I do want you to look at that Horace Mitchell Minor reading, Body Ritual of the Nasarima. It's from 1955. It's on Blackboard. It's this famous anthropologist, not a sociologist who wrote it, but it's very sociological. Read that. You don't need to focus on too much of the detail. Just give it a look And then that is the plan. I will be seeing you all soon. Email me if you have questions, but I hope these videos helped.